Hey guys, what's up? I'm back with another ranking list, this time with the Super Nintendo, the SNES. This means I'll be ranking every single JRPG on the Super Nintendo, in my opinion of course. Now, just like in the last video, no only in Japan games, I'm sorry, I know there are tons of them like Tales of Fantasia, Star Ocean, the Fire Emblem games, Bahamut Lagoon, and a big etc. I'm sorry, but nope, only games developed in Japan with at least a North American release. So I'll be doing all of this, 31 JRPGs. You may notice that there's a bunch of them missing from this list. That's because I don't consider them as role-playing games, such as The Legend of Zelda, the Octo Racer 1 and 2 games, and this weird-ass game called Evo, The Search of Eden, or something like that. I think they're good games, they have some role-playing elements, but I just don't consider them as true role-playing games. Alright guys, so with that clarified, let's do this. Let's begin with Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. Remember, this is a game that Squaresoft made for us Americans that couldn't handle certain hard games, so this was a very watered-down version of their Final Fantasy series. Pissed off a lot of people. Turned out to be a very mediocre game with an amazing soundtrack, but as a game, it's just a middle-of-the-road game. I think people are too harsh on this game. Me, I think it's an okay game, so I'm just gonna put it here, on the C tier. The 7th Saga, pre-infamous game. I think it's a hidden gem, but unfortunately the localization was messed up, and the game turned out to be way harder than it was supposed to be. Brutally hard game, gigantic grindfest. In my opinion, this is one of the absolute hardest RPGs of all time. Like, not a single Souls game comes close to this freaking game. But you know what? I love it. I don't care, I love it. There's just something about it, maybe the music, the interface, the controls, the battle system, that make me wanna really enjoy this game. So this goes straight to the B tier. Arcana is one of the worst RPGs I've ever played in my life, and definitely one of the worst JRPGs in this system. It's a dungeon crawler in first person, turn-based RPG, encounter rate is atrocious, the navigation is atrocious, the story is trash. I see nothing good about this game. Honestly, I agree that it's not that bad, but sorry, I hate this game, it's trash in my opinion, so let's just put it here, on the E tier. Next is Brandish. Brandish is a top-down view action RPG. Plays a little bit like a roguelike, but it's not a roguelike, it's just a normal action RPG developed by Falcom. That's right, the creators of the Trail series and the E series. Obscure game, guys, also remade for the PSP digitally. Brandish is a good game. Unfortunately, I'm gonna stick with the PSP remake, it's much better in my opinion. That doesn't mean the Super Nintendo version is bad, it's just plain, simply good. Another C level game. Breath of Fire 1 and 2. Breath of Fire 1, I guess I am blinded by nostalgia. I really like the game. I will stick with the Game Boy Advance version, but still Breath of Fire is a B tier for me. The second one, however, you know how I feel about this game, I hate it. Can't stand this game. Again, the Game Boy Advance version is far superior. I don't think it's a bad game at all. I just feel really bad about it. I just don't like this game one bit. So I'm gonna leave it here at D tier. Chrono Trigger. Allegedly the best RPG of all time and one of the most historically important. Well guys, I really like this game. I just don't love it passionately as many of you do. I'm sorry, but this goes to A tier. I really enjoy this game. Great game, multiple endings, great story, great graphics, great everything. But it's just, personally, I didn't enjoy it as much as many of you did. Earthbound, that's another perfect example. It's the same case. Great game, great everything. Well, I think the graphics are trash here, I'm sorry. But everything else is great. However, I'm sorry, this is C tier for me. I don't like this game one bit. I don't think it's bad by any means. I understand its influence. I'm sorry, I don't give a crap. I don't like this game. Final Fantasy II, this is a good game. Very revolutionary, like way better than Earthbound in my opinion. I ended up playing the PS1 port of the game and it was really hard. But then I played this version, the Super Nintendo version, it was better. I think this first version of the game might be one of the best out there, along with the PSP version. This goes straight to B tier. Great story, but as a game, it just has a lot of things that I kind of dislike. Oh man, Final Fantasy III, also known as Final Fantasy VI, one of my absolute favorite RPGs on the system, a masterpiece, great story, great graphics, great gameplay mechanics, the music, man, this is a masterpiece. This is far better than Chrono Trigger. This goes straight to S tier for me. Illusion of Gaia, part of the Quintet trilogy. It's a pretty fun action RPG, sort of like a forgotten gem nowadays. People forgot about this game. Back in the day, it used to be one of the most popular RPGs in the system, and now it's forgotten. It's a fun action RPG. This goes straight to B tier. I think it could have been better for me to put it in the A tier, but it's good. Same case with Soul Blazer. The game is fantastic. I loved it, but it's very repetitive. Very repetitive, and there isn't as much story focus as there was on Illusion of Gaia. So again, B tier for me, because gameplay wise, in terms of battle system, I guess I prefer Soul Blazer over Illusion of Gaia, but honestly, I can't decide between those two which one is best. Terranigma, that's another game that's part of the Quintet trilogy, along with these two, Illusion of Gaia and Soul Blazer. This, however, was only released in Japan and Europe, never made it to North America, but you know that you can emulate it, right? That's what I did. I think this is the best out of the 3 games in the series, well, in the alleged trilogy, but still, B tier for me. Great game, but it's just, I don't know, some parts of the game just didn't click with me. But these 3, don't take me wrong, they're great games. Tecmo, Secret of the Stars. Man, this is like Grand Stream Saga on the PS1. I called this game a hidden gem when I made the Super Nintendo Hidden Gems video, and then I kept playing the game and I just immediately regretted it. It's highly mediocre, it's not terrible, it has some really good things, good turn-based battle system, it's just going back and forth between parties and doing the same dungeons and puzzles, it just gets boring, it gets old really quick. It's not a bad game, but god damn it, it's not a good game either. D tier for me. Twisted Tales of Spike McFang. Let me say that again, the Twisted Tales of Spike McFang. It's an action RPG that looks a little bit reminiscent of the early 20th century cartoons, and I gotta admit, it's fun, but just like Secret of the Stars, it gets old really quickly. The music here is fantastic, and the concept is really good because it is a really fun comedy, but as a game, it just fails to meet every single expectation. Another game that goes into the D tier for me. Uncharted Waters, these are really 2 obscure games, 1 and 2. This was originally released, I think, for computer systems and the original Nintendo, the NES, and this is just a port. You're not gonna believe this, but even though the idea is great, the navigation, the trading system, and the small battle system that's barely there, and the leveling up system, the role-playing elements are there, but I don't know, Uncharted Waters, it just didn't click with me at all. I don't think it's a good game. I have no idea how this game made it to the Super Nintendo. It's another D tier for me. The sequel, however, called New Horizons, is a much better game. You want to play a true, good Uncharted Waters game, unrelated to the first one, you don't have to play the first one to play this one, to understand this one. Play it. This is a really good game. Everything that was done in Uncharted Waters, the first game, was made 10 times better here. This is a much improved version of the game. Well, it's a completely different game, of course. Not a masterpiece, but it's fantastic. Goes to the B tier too. Next up is Brain Lord, an action RPG full of annoying puzzles. Fantastic soundtrack, one of the most underrated soundtracks ever in a JRPG. The action is cool, top-down view game, pretty darn good hidden gem. It's just some of the puzzles are really annoying, but I enjoy the heck out of this game either way. So, I'm gonna put it at C, because story-wise, and like I said, gameplay-wise, it just doesn't stand out. Dragon View, I guess it's the same case with me. This is an underrated action RPG, far better than Draken. This is supposed to be Draken 2. Thank God they changed the name to Dragon View, so it wouldn't be associated with this piece of shit. Dragon View, however, is brutally hard, brutally unforgiving, totally grindy. It has a lot of special things. Like, I'd rather play this game than Brain Lore because it's just very addictive to play. Dragon View miraculously makes it to the B tier. Draken is the worst RPG of all time in the Super Nintendo. There's no reason to talk about that piece of trash. I don't want to waste your time with this fucking game, so let's just go straight to another highly mediocre and just plain bad game. It's not one of the worst. Well, it is. You know what? It is one of the worst in the system, but it's just not that bad. It's just a turn-based RPG that's in the world of Nobunaga's ambition, but is the perfect example of where the fuck do I go kind of game. The graphics are bad, as you can see right now. I don't see anything good in this game except the battle theme, which is pretty fucking kick-ass. But as a game, it's just not a good game, man. Another D-tier game. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars is one of my absolute favorite RPGs of all time, and also one of my favorites in the system. Great game, masterpiece, one of the very first RPGs I ever played in my life. And this is not a nostalgia blind, this is a game that I can still play today and enjoy the heck out of it. Go straight to S tier, man. Lagoon. Let me tell you something about Lagoon. It's another top-down view action RPG. Similar to the Ys series, the first early Ys games. It tried to be good, but at the same time, it had a lot of problems. Lagoon, however, has an amazing soundtrack. And the soundtrack, and I guess the balanced difficulty in some parts of the game, kinda made me enjoy it. I'd never finished this game, but I liked it, just didn't like it as much, but I'm just gonna put it here on the C tier. I hate the first Lufia. The encounter rate in this game is atrocious and the battle system is trash. I hated the fact that you can't specifically choose which enemy to attack. Like, if you play this game, you already know how it works. There are groups of enemies, not just one enemy, and it just lacks strategy. I don't know, Lufia 1 has a lot of good things, but to me it's a D game, man. I really hate this game. Can't stand it. Lufia 2, however, is almost a masterpiece. On par with Chrono Trigger, great game. Everything that was done slightly good in the first Lufia was perfected in this game. It is a prequel to the first Lufia. Fantastic. This game is almost a masterpiece. I love this game. Great music, great everything. Go straight to A tier, man. Next to Chrono Trigger. It deserves to be there. Ogre Battle. Ogre Battle is another great game. Fantastic game. Highly addictive. However, when it comes to story, it's barely there. I mean, it doesn't engage with the player. This is not a game you play because of the story. This is a game you play because of its battle mechanics. So this goes straight to B tier for me. Great game, but I think they could have put more story into it. And maybe shorter maps. Because some of the maps here are really long. Paladin's Quest. I don't even know how to explain this game. It tried to be original. It's a science fiction RPG, turn-based too. But again, the encounter rate, difficulty spikes. I'm not sure about this game at all. I struggle every time I think of this game. I struggle strongly with it. Like, sometimes I think it's okay. Sometimes I think it's kind of mediocre. I don't want to deal with this game, so let's just put it at C tier and forget about it. Robo Trek, that's a charming RPG with small Pokemon elements. Instead of capturing monsters, you kind of create robots and train them to fight battles and all that stuff. If you're into those kinds of games, this game is highly recommended. If you really like the Pokemon ideas, the Pokemon format, this is a must play. It's a beautiful hidden gem. However, for me, that I don't really like the capturing monsters or creating creatures and monsters and robots and shit, I guess it's not exactly a game that I will ever finish. C level for me, another C tier game. Secret of Mana is a great game. I like this game, never finished it. I've always said it, Trials of Mana is a much better game. That's just my opinion though. This game is a classic, a masterpiece for a lot of people, highly influential game. I understand the historical importance of it. However, Most of the games just didn't click enough with me, but it was still pretty darn good. Goes here to B. The last two are Super Ninja Boy. Super Ninja Boy is probably one of the most obscure in this list in the Super Nintendo. The first game was called Little Ninja Brothers, or something like that, Little Ninja Boy, on the NES. It's a beat-em-up, side-scroller beat-em-up RPG, but when you're outside of battle, the navigation takes place in a top-down view perspective. You go to towns, talk to people, buy stuff, etc. So most people see this game and they don't know it's a JRPG, and it's pretty damn fun. But again, it's a comedy, it's kind of dumb, it grows old pretty quickly. So yeah, it's a fun game, but let's just leave it at that. It's another game that goes here to the C tier. It has a two-player co-op mode, guys. I think it's far better if you play with a friend, but it can get a little bit crazy like that. Last but not least, Ys 3. Let me talk to you about Ys 3. I've covered this game several times in my channel, but because I usually cover the Odin Felgana, which is the remake, almost a masterpiece, a great game that I absolutely love, and a brutally hard game. Super Nintendo version doesn't stay behind in terms of difficulty, it's a brutally hard game too. It's good, it's a side-scroller, but you know, this game was released for many different systems, and these, along with the computer versions, are the worst. That doesn't mean it's a bad game at all, it's just not as enjoyable as, I don't know, the TurboGrafx version, or specifically the PSP remake. I strongly suggest you play those instead, or at least the Sega Genesis version, which plays slightly better. So this goes again straight to C, even though it has an amazing soundtrack, just like Lagoon and just like Brain Lord. But the music doesn't make a game, I'm sorry, stays on C tier. Wow, so that's it, we're done. Another game you're probably wondering, where the hell is Secret of Evermore? Let me tell you one more time, that's a Western RPG. It wasn't even released in Japan, just so you know. And this is a JRPGs list, not a Western RPGs list. I'm surprised myself, I didn't rehearse this video at all. I thought I was gonna put more games here on the A tier. But like I said, I think Breath of Fire, I prefer the Game Boy Advance version, Final Fantasy IV, I prefer the PS1 version, even though I know the Super Nintendo is better. And these three games could be A tier too, but to be honest, I just didn't enjoy them that much. Anyway, that's it for this video, people. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!